to join. Whilst we're waiting, well, I will test out my microphone in a moment. Basically, if you're listening to music, I would recommend, if this is people's first class, just to have it quite quiet and to try and have me as quiet as possible while still being able to listen, because I have a microphone, but the louder you have it, the more interference there is. And I said in the email, if you have a blanket or something warm for the beginning, if you also have a cushion or anything near that you might want to use toward the end of the class, or for towel pose, just to give you some more height on the hips. So if you have anything near, like a book or a cushion, or you can use your blanket and fold it up, or even a jumper, just to give you some padding and height. So, and whatever everyone wants to do with their cameras, if you feel comfortable having it on, you can. If you want to turn it off, that's perfect as well. So if, Eladio, I can see you on the camera now, I'm going to test out my microphone, and when I say testing, if you could give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay? Okay, testing. Testing, okay, perfect. So, I'm going to put everyone on mute. There's no interruptions. Okay. So if there's any problem throughout the class with the sound, then if somebody could just send me a message in the chat. So we're going to start today in child pose. In fact, first, if you would like to start your playlists, if you're listening to music, so if you press play from the beginning. And we're just going to bring the knees to about hip width apart. If it's more comfortable for you, you can bring them a little wider. And I want you to have big toes together, resting the tops of the feet on the ground. And just the bone that we have that we sit on, I'm going to be calling the sitting bones or the sit bones. So if you just want to allow this bone to sink down onto the heels, if this is uncomfortable, you can get your blanket and just wedge it between the calves and the glutes. And I want you to start to pull the flesh out from under the sit bones, allowing the bones to sink down. Relax the shoulders. And we're going to slowly walk the hands forward, extending the arms, taking our time, starting to lengthen out through the body, through the torso. Pulling the fingers as far away as you can from the hips, so finding a nice long line. And slowly allowing the abdomen to sink down between the two thighs, resting the forehead on the mat, trying to keep the sit bones pushing down over the heels. And again, if your head doesn't reach the ground, you can just allow it to hang, relaxing the muscles in the back of the neck. And you can start to relax the arms. And you can close your eyes. Just starting to bring your focus into the breath. And for this class, we're going to be breathing in and out through the nostrils, in and out through the nose. So if you want to start to draw the breath in through the nose and direct the breath back out through the nose as well. Start to feel the breath filling the lungs with each inhalation. And just follow it as it leaves the body. Continuing with this breath, starting to allow the abdomen to expand with the inhalation, noticing as it sinks down toward the ground between the thighs. And as you exhale, feel the abdomen contracting, the navel pulling back toward the spine. And just try and bring all of your attention, all of your focus onto the breath. Following it as it comes in and out. Maybe noticing where it travels through the body. And it's normal if any stray thoughts start to enter the mind. Try not to judge yourself for being distracted, just allow them to come in. And as you exhale, let go of these thoughts, feel them drifting away on the breath, bringing your focus back inward. And as you continue to follow the breath in and out, just feel the outside world drifting a little further away. And whilst we're still here in our towel pose, you can either keep your breath quiet, almost silent and calm, or if you like, you can start to make some sound on the exhalation. In this breath we call Ujjayi breath, so breathing in and out through the nose still. But before the exhalation leaves the body through the nose, just allow the breath to bounce off the back of the throat. You might want to use this breath, this Ujjayi breath, whenever you need a little more power in the class, or all the way through if it feels nice. And just remember this child pose for if you need a rest, or if you want to take a break, you can come back to this resting pose at any time that you like. And we're going to draw in one last inhale here. One last exhale. And slowly you can start to walk the hands a little closer toward the knees. Lifting the gaze, looking straight through the hands. And we're going to start to press the palms down into the ground, making sure the hands are shoulder width apart. You can open your eyes now if you haven't already. Pointing the first fingers straight forward, and we're going to start to spread the thumbs and the smaller fingers away from the first finger. So making our hands as big as we can, flattening them out along the ground. And from here, I want you to start to see if you can rotate the shoulders outward. So keeping arms long, rotating shoulders out. Don't worry if this doesn't make a lot of sense right now, it will start to. So rotating shoulders out, maybe allowing the arms to follow. And lifting the sit bones, bringing the knees and the feet to hip width apart, starting to tuck the toes. So checking that you're aligned, and slowly we're going to start to circle the body around the wrists. So moving clockwise to begin. Drawing little circles, keeping the focus on the breath. And gradually, you can start to allow your circles to become a little bigger. Starting to bring a little more weight onto the wrists. Bringing the sit bones and the hips a little closer toward the heels. Bringing the weight a little further toward the right side, a little further toward the left. Keeping each movement connected to the breath until maybe you can bring the sit bones all the way back to the heels until you can't make your circles any bigger. And we're going to change direction, moving anti-clockwise. Again, starting with small circles. Just starting to warm the wrists. Again, gradually, maybe bringing a little more weight onto the wrists, allowing our circles to become bigger. Starting to involve a little more movement through the body. Maybe opening up through the left side. Noticing any movement through the hips. Opening up through the right side. Keeping arms long the whole time. Checking in with the breath. Making sure we're not holding the breath. And until, again, our circles are as big as they can be. Sit bones coming all the way back onto heels. And slowly you can come back to center. Checking knees and feet are still hip width apart, knees below hips, wrists below shoulders. We're going to walk the fingers all the way out toward the edges of the mat. So keeping the palms open, keeping the fingers spread. And you're going to gently rock from left to right side, just feeling a little stretch through the wrists and the forearms. Maybe as we inhale, coming to the left side, and as we exhale, coming back to the right. Still keeping arms long, pulling the shoulders back away from the ears, allowing neck to be long as well. Maybe starting to bring a little more weight once more over left hand, over right. And coming back to center. We're going to walk the hands all the way back toward the front of the mat. Again, checking first fingers are pointing forward, spreading thumbs, spreading fingers away from first fingers. Checking the toes are pressing into the ground. And we're going to go through some cat and cow poses. So allowing the spine to be neutral, pulling shoulders back once more, and starting to squeeze the glutes. So squeezing our bums and pressing the feet into the ground. Start to slowly lift the tailbone toward the ceiling. So using the glutes, the muscles, to pull up through the tailbone, allowing the abdomen to relax down toward the ground. Starting to find a little baby arch through the lower back. And keeping shoulders pulled back, allowing the chest to open up through the arms, lifting the head to look straight forward, or all the way up toward the ceiling. Keeping glutes engaged the whole time. Keeping arms long as we exhale, again squeezing the glutes, using these muscles to pull the tailbone back down toward the ground. So tipping the pelvis in the opposite direction, moving as slowly as you can. Starting to allow this movement to spread into the abdomen, allowing the abdomen and the navel to pull back toward the spine. Starting to round through the lower back. Moving up into the upper back. Feel the chest pulling back toward the upper back. So the front ribs coming into the back ribs, opening out this space. And you can allow the scapula to spread apart from one another. Finally, relaxing the head all the way down toward the ground, allowing the neck to be soft, Maybe giving the head a little shake from side to side. Pressing palms into the ground, finding length between hands and shoulders. And as we inhale, coming back into our cow pose, squeezing the glutes, lifting through the tailbone. Abdomen relaxes down, arching through the lower back, opening up the chest, shoulders back, looking up. Exhale, rounding back down, tipping the tailbone, tipping the pelvis. Abdomen pulling all the way up. And the front ribs pulling into back ribs, spreading the scapula. Following your own breath now as you inhale, trying to start each movement from the tailbone, finding this arch through the back. And as you exhale, again, starting your movement in the tailbone, undulating through the spine to a round back. Inhale. Exhale. Starting to warm the body, finding as much openness to the back as you round, and as much openness through the front body as you arch. One last time, coming into our rounded back. And this time, as you arch the back, I want you to start to pull the sit bones back toward the heels, keeping toes tucked. And we're going to stretch the arms forward. So coming into an active child pose here, you can leave the feet hip width apart, leave the knees hip width apart, and the hands shoulder width. Keeping shoulders rotating out. And exhale, resting the forehead on the mat. Anytime you have a build-up of breath, you can just release one long exhale through the mouth, or a few if you have a lot of build-up of breath. And as we inhale, again squeezing the glutes, tipping the tailbone, thinking about rounding the back the same as we did before. I'm going to pull the navel toward the spine, rounding all the way forward, relaxing the head down. But this time, we're going to travel through our all four position. And I want you to start to lift the feet off the ground. And keeping the hips high, starting to pull the tailbone up. So glutes stay engaged, bending the elbows back along the sides of the body. We're going to bring the chest all the way toward the ground. And you can relax the pelvis and relax the feet to the mat. So we're lying down, glutes stay engaged. I want you to walk the forearms forward. So elbows are below shoulders. Keep the hands directly in front of the elbows, shoulders pulling back. And as you press the glutes, press the pelvis into the ground, engaging the glutes. Start to try and pull back through the forearms. So imagine you're trying to move the ground beneath you with the forearms. And we're going to come into our Sphinx position, opening up through the chest, lifting the gaze, looking straight forward, or if it feels comfortable, maybe looking up toward the ceiling. Pulling the shoulders as far back as you can as you pull forward through the chest. You can adjust the camera. That's okay. So breathing here. This should be an active pose. So we're not just relaxing here. Make sure legs are engaged, glutes are engaged, pressing the pelvis as deep as you can, pressing the tops of the feet, pulling back through the arms, opening up through the chest, lengthening through the sides of the body. Breathing, finding your Ujjayi breath if you like. Or you can even exhale through the mouth. And one more inhale here. We're going to lift the elbows. And as we exhale, pull the elbows back along the sides of the body. Relax the head all the way down. And bringing hands to either side of the chest. Bringing big toes together. In fact, no, we're going to leave the feet hip width apart. So just bending the legs. And I want you to start to round through the back once more. So pressing the weight into the hands, lifting the chest, starting to tuck the tailbone, rounding, Bringing the toes toward the ground, coming back to our active child, finding length through sides of the body. Breathing here. And inhale, coming back forward. Tipping the tailbone, pulling abdomen into spine, rounding through the back, relaxing the head down, lifting through the feet. And we're going to rest the body back onto the ground. If you can, bringing chest down first, followed by pelvis and feet. This time leaving the hands either side of the chest. And as we inhale, we're going to roll up into cobra position. If cobra feels too intense, still you can come back onto the forearms. So for cobra, keeping elbows by the sides of the body, starting to pull the shoulders back. As we press the pelvis into the ground, check feet a hip width apart, or even a little wider to take some pressure off the lower back. And slowly keeping shoulders away from ears, keeping a slight bend in the elbows. We're going to lift through the chest, looking straight forward or up. But don't look up if it feels like it's straining your neck or if it's bringing the shoulders up. Checking your alignment here. So making sure if the shoulders are coming up toward the ears, you might need to find more bend through the elbows. So I don't mind how high you are. Just check elbows pulling back, chest pulling forward, shoulders away from the ears. One more breath here, one more inhale. And as we exhale, keeping engaged through the lower body, start to pull the hands and the elbows back as you pull the chest forward. Releasing all the way to the ground. And lifting the feet once more, rounding back into our active child, tucking the toes, finding length through the arms. Resting here. And we're going to repeat this one more time. This time, either you can repeat one of the variations that we just did, or we're going to try and come straight into our cobra without laying down on the ground. So as you tip the tailbone again, rounding through the back, coming forward, lifting through the feet, pulling up through the tailbone as you pull down through the chest, elbows coming back. And we're going to relax the pelvis down, starting to engage the glutes, pushing pelvis into the mat, starting to lift through the chest as the feet come down. And one movement coming into cobra. Breathing here, pulling back through the elbows, pulling back through the shoulders, pulling forward through the chest. Pressing pelvis into the ground. One more inhale. Exhale all the way back down. And lifting the feet, pushing into the hands, round back into child pose. Tucking the feet, lengthening through the arms, allowing the abdomen to relax down to the thighs. You can rest the forehead on the mat. And we're going to take a little breath here. Just allow the breath to lengthen. Starting to bring all of our focus back to the breath. And allow the body to calm. Slowly, once more, we're going to walk the hands a little closer toward the knees, rounding through the back, lifting into our tabletop position. Checking knees and feet are hip width apart, checking wrists are below shoulders, and starting to find a neutral spine. As we inhale, keeping shoulders back, lifting through tailbone, pulling sit bones back toward the hips. And as you inhale, I want you to lift onto the fingertips. And we're going to bring the left foot forward between the two hands. grounding down through the left foot. And I want you to check that you're pressing all of the left foot into the mat. So spreading the toes, checking the big toe is pointing forward, checking the toes of the right foot are pointing forward as well. And here, either you can keep the right toes tucked, maybe it's a little easier to balance, or you can relax the top of the right foot to the mat. Start to squeeze the glutes. Lots of glute squeezing today. And pulling back through the left hip, driving forward through the right. So we're trying to square the hips. So we might naturally have the left hip coming forward. I want you to pull it back, bring the right one forward. So they should be facing the front of the mat. Keeping the glutes engaged as we inhale. I want you to start to lengthen through the sides of the body, pulling shoulders back, pulling chest forward. And you can just rest the palms of the hands on the left thigh. Squeezing the glutes, starting to drive the pelvis forward. And we're going to pull the chest back. So we're trying to bring the chest just over the hips. If your toes are tucked, pushing the toes into the ground, pushing the left foot forward, finding engagement through the legs. And either you can stay here, just trying to focus on your alignment through the legs, taking shoulders are relaxing down, opening up through the chest, lengthening through the sides. Or as you exhale, release the arms down by the sides, pulling the fingertips away from the shoulders. And as you inhale, pull the hands up overhead. Keeping the pelvis pushing forward, keeping chest pulling back, keeping focus on the breath, and pulling the fingers away from the hips. Checking that hands are shoulder width apart so they're not coming out wide. Trying to keep the arms extended so they're not bending. And stretching even through the fingers. Pulling the arms in toward the ears. If the arms are coming forward, see if you can pull them back. Keep driving pelvis a little further forward. We're keeping the gaze looking straight forward. See if you can find a still point to focus on to help you balance. If you like, maybe you can allow the hips to sink down whilst keeping glutes engaged. Find a little more length through the sides and through the arms. Maybe letting out some breath through the mouth. Finding some more power. If you're very comfortable here, maybe you can look up toward the ceiling. Still pressing into both of your feet, pushing them in opposite directions, finding tension in the legs. And one more inhale, lengthening here. As you exhale, wherever you are, you can walk the hands down toward the ground, bringing them to either side of the left foot. And we're going to press the right palm, keeping the wrist below the right shoulder. We're going to start to twist the abdomen and the chest toward the left side. So twisting through the abdomen, twisting through the chest toward the left leg. And you can either bring the left hand to the left hip, pulling back through left shoulder, or you can extend up through the left arm, looking toward the left hand, breathing here. Keeping glutes engaged, trying to press the arm down, the right hand down as you pull up through the left, finding space between right and left hand. And exhale, bringing the left hand inside the left foot. You should be here. So from here, I want you to start to push the left arm against the left knee and see if you can push the left knee against the right arm. So you're finding tension between the leg and the arm. And again, we're going to twist to the opposite side this time, twisting through the abdomen, twisting through the chest, opening up toward the right. Inhale, maybe bringing right hand to right hip or pulling the hand up toward the ceiling. Trying to spread, find space across the chest. Pressing the palm down as you pull up through the fingers of the right hand. Pulling shoulders away from ears. And exhale, bringing the right hand all the way back down. We're going to walk the left foot all the way toward the edge of the mat. And keeping the left arm pushing against the left knee, the right hand below the right shoulder, keeping glutes engaged, either right foot tucked or the top of the foot relaxed down onto the ground. And again, I just want you to focus on pulling back through the hands, pulling back through the shoulders, finding length through the sides of the body, trying to keep hips square, glutes engaged, and you can pull forward through the chest. Breathing here. Checking there's still tension between left and right hand, noticing how this feels in the left hip. Breathing, allowing each breath to become a little longer. See if you're holding any tension in the face, maybe in the forehead, in the jaw. And as you exhale, just allow this tension to be released. Allowing the face to become soft, relaxed. And we're going to tuck the toes of the right foot if they're not already. And you can pull back through the left leg. We're going to come all the way back into our active child pose. So bringing the left knee, so it's alongside the right, keeping toes tucked, pushing sit bones back to heels, finding length through the arms, resting the forehead down. Counting 3 rounds of breath here. Once more, allowing the abdomen to soften, allowing the breath to lengthen. Allowing any tension in the face just to melt away. And starting to come back, rounding through the back, bringing the hands back to our tabletop. And as we inhale, arching, lifting through the tailbone, pulling back through the sit bones, resting them into the hips. Inhale, lifting through the fingertips, pulling the right foot once more between the hands, or opposite foot through the hands. Either leaving the toes of the left foot tucked or resting them on the ground. And again, checking the right knee is over the right ankle, so it shouldn't be further forward than the toes. So you might need to separate the feet a little more if the knee's coming very far forward. And spreading the toes out wide, trying to point the big toe straight forward. Squeezing the glutes, squaring the hips. So again, this time pushing forward through left hip, pulling back through right. So the hips are looking straight forward toward the front of the mat. And as we inhale, maybe lifting a little higher onto the fingertips if we can still reach the ground, pulling shoulders back, lengthening through the sides, opening the chest, bringing the hands up onto the right thigh. Shoulders relaxing back and down. Pushing the right foot forward as you push the left foot back. Maybe it's a little easier if you have the toes tucked to find tension between right and left foot. And keep pulling shoulders down as you push the pelvis forward, bringing the chest back, leaving the hands here if you like, and just focusing on your base, grounding down through the feet, finding tension through the legs, keeping the hips square, glutes engaged. Maybe lifting the gaze to look straight forward, finding a point of focus. Or if you like, as you exhale, pull the arms down by the sides, pulling the fingers away from shoulders, keep driving pelvis forward, finding length all the way through the arms. And as you inhale, maybe driving the pelvis a little further forward, pulling the chest a little further back. Pull the hands overhead, keeping hands shoulder width apart. And as you pull the hands up, make sure shoulders aren't coming up toward the ears. So fingers pulling up, shoulders pulling down. So you're trying to lengthen as much as you can through the arms. Maybe letting out some breath through the mouth. Softening the forehead. Relaxing the lips, relaxing the jaw. Keeping the breath long, allowing it to be quiet, or finding some more power in the exhale as you practice your Ujjayi breath. One more inhale here, pulling up through the arms. And as you exhale, lengthen forward, bringing the hands slowly toward the ground. Making sure that either side of the right foot, left wrist is below left shoulder. And starting to twist through the abdomen and the chest toward the right leg, bringing right hand to right hip, right shoulder pulling back, looking up toward the ceiling, pressing down into the palm if you like, extending right arm. And keeping the glutes engaged, keep pushing back into the left foot, either on the top of the foot or tucked. And again, finding space between left and right hand, trying to relax the back of the neck as you look up. If it feels intense looking up, you can just look straight down to the ground. Checking you're not holding your breath. Keep finding space in the body for the inhalation, finding expansion with the inhale. And exhale. Bringing the right hand inside the right foot. So again, pushing the right arm against the right knee, pushing the right knee against the right foot. So noticing maybe you find more engagement in the right leg as you do this. And again, twisting toward the left side this time, left hand to left hip, left shoulder pulling back. Looking up toward the ceiling. Inhale, left arm extended. Again, finding space between left and right hand. If you prefer, you can look to the ground or straight up, relaxing the neck. Exhale, left hand coming back down. And we're going to walk the right foot out. So we can bring both of the hands to shoulder width. I'm going to relax the top of my left foot down, but if you want to keep it tucked, you can. So keep pushing the right arm against the right knee. And starting to pull the hands and the shoulders back. So we're not moving the hands, but imagine you're trying to move the ground beneath the hands. Starting to lengthen from the hip, all the way along the sides of the body, opening up through the chest, pulling shoulders back. Breathing here. Maybe releasing a few breaths through the mouth. Enjoying this stillness. Looking straight forward. So again, we're not just resting here. Keep finding as much as you can, pull back through the shoulders, pull back through the hands, lengthening forward through the chest. So as the chest and the shoulders move in opposite directions. So it shouldn't be really easy. Pushing the left foot into the ground, pushing the right knee against the right foot. And one last exhale here. As we inhale, again, we're going to pull the right foot back, bringing the right knee so it's next to the left, tucking the toes, sitting back into our active child pose. Stretching the hands forward, resting the forehead on the mat. Allowing abdomen to soften here. You can relax the arms completely. Allow the shoulders to be heavy. Taking 3 more rounds of breath here. If you need a longer rest than this, feel free to stay in child pose. So when you finish your 3 rounds of breath, we're going to start to lift once more through the sit bones, tipping the tailbone down, rounding through the back, pulling the hands toward the knees, coming into our tabletop position, so allowing the spine to become neutral. And from here, making sure that the hands are shoulder width apart. So we're preparing for our down dog. If you feel in down dog, like there's too much weight on the hands or too much pressure on the wrists, then you can turn, keeping the palms open, the fingers spread. You can turn the fingers toward the edges of the mat. So you're pointing the thumb and the first finger toward the front of the mat. And you might find it's a little more comfortable. But wherever you are, making sure that the wrists are shoulder width apart. So from here, again, focusing on rotating shoulders out, keeping shoulders away from the ears, and we're going to try and keep the neck nice and long. Pressing the weight into the toes, we're going to slowly start to lift the knees. We're going to pull the hips in the direction away from the hands, so pulling them both up toward the ceiling and at the same time back toward whatever is behind you, the back side of the mat. So finding length from the wrist all the way up toward the hips. We're going to keep a bend in the knees, keeping heels lifted for now. So just trying to focus on taking the shoulders away from the hands, taking the hips away from the shoulders, finding one nice long line here. And you can keep this bend in the knees as we start. In fact, we're going to keep the bend through the left knee. We're going to start to lengthen through the right leg. So see if you can bring the right heel a little closer toward the ground. Breathing here, starting to lengthen all the way through the back of the leg, loosening the hamstring. And changing sides, so lifting right heel, bending through right leg, grounding down through left heel, lengthening through the back of the left leg. We're going to start to follow the breath as you exhale, grounding down through right, bending through left. As you inhale, changing sides, grounding through left, bending through the right leg, lifting through the right heel. Starting to follow your own breath, finding your own rhythm. Remember, whenever you need a rest, you can come back down to child pose. And bending both knees once more. Pulling the hips a little higher. Maybe you might find you can lengthen the legs out a bit more. If the shoulders start to come forward toward the hands, then just bend the knees again. And we're going to bring the heels down toward the ground. So the same as before, if shoulders are coming forward, you can lift the heels a little higher and find as much bend in the knees as you need. Breathing here. We're going to count 3 rounds of breath. And when we finish, we're going to sink back down to our child pose. Allowing face to soften, allowing arms to be long, pushing the weight away from the hands. So pulling up through the hips, pulling the weight down toward the heels. And when you finish your 3 rounds of breath, relax the knees back down, bring big toes together. And we're going to sit back down into our first child pose, our full child pose. Lengthening the arms in front of the body, relaxing the abdomen down between the thighs, resting the forehead. And we're going to release a few breaths out through the mouth. If it feels more comfortable, you can bring one side of the head to the mat instead of the forehead. Maybe just allow your eyes to drift closed. Allowing all of your focus to come back to the breath. Feeling the abdomen filling as you inhale. Feeling it opening, expanding between the thighs. And as you exhale, noticing as it contracts. Feeling the navel, the belly button pulling up toward the spine. Allow the arms to become heavy. Allow the shoulders to relax completely. And just notice the weight of the legs on the ground. And just allow the weight of the upper body to melt down over the legs. And we're going to count 3 more rounds of breath here before we finish the class. Just some gentle stretches. So when you finish your 3 rounds of breath, just slowly walk the hands back toward the knees, starting to round through the back once more. Bringing the hands all the way onto the knees, starting to lengthen up through the spine, coming into a kneeling position, pulling shoulders back, lifting the head. And we're going to release the feet down toward the right side, extending the legs out in front. Make sure you've got space on the mat to lie down. So before we lie down, bringing the feet to hip width apart, keeping knees bent, pulling the feet as close as you can toward the hips. Just going to walk onto the hands, turning the fingers backward away from the body. I'm just going to relax the weight of the body onto the hands. Maybe relax the neck, rocking from side to side. Releasing the breath. And I'm going to walk down onto the forearms, giving the weight of the body to the forearms. And again, maybe just gently rocking the head from side to side, allowing it to be heavy. And tucking the tailbone, starting to bring the lower spine onto the mat, the lumbar spine. And slowly walking all the way down, lengthening through the spine, bringing shoulders to the ground. We're going to walk the feet now just to the edges of the mat. So if you're not on a mat, just bringing the feet a little wider than hip width. And we're going to open the arms out into a cactus shape. So arms are at right angles. So elbows should be parallel to shoulders, and then drawing a right angle. So palms are facing up toward the ceiling. And just allow the shoulders to sink all the way down into the ground as you exhale. Relax the arms completely. Focus on the breath, filling the abdomen and contracting as you exhale. So with the exhalation, I want you just to allow the knees to sink down toward the left side. So they don't need to reach the ground, just as far as they'll go comfortably. And either you can leave the head looking straight up toward the ceiling, or you can look toward the right elbow as the knees come toward the left. You're looking away from the knees. And as we inhale, we're going to change sides, bringing the knees toward the right, bringing the head to look toward the left elbow. Exhale, left side. Inhale to the right. Starting to follow your own breath. On each exhale, coming to the left, on each inhale, coming to the right. Just noticing the contact between the hips and the ground. Starting to feel a little massage along the hips. And just feeling a gentle twist to the back. Releasing one more time toward the right. And coming back to center. Bringing the feet together, bringing the knees together. Again, tucking the tailbone, making sure the spine is long along the ground. And we're going to hug the knees into the chest, wrapping the arms around the legs. Keeping shoulders sinking down, just give yourself a little squeeze. And I'm going to open my right arm out once more, so it's still in cactus. Trying to allow the right shoulder to sink down deeply into the ground. And I'm going to gently bring the legs toward the left side, using the left hand, keeping the knees high. So again, they don't need to come all the way down to the ground. Wherever you are, make sure the right shoulder stays grounded, sorry. So try and make sure it's not lifting off the ground. And if you're comfortable here, you can look towards the right elbow. Again, just finding a nice twist through the back. Breathing, maybe starting to feel some expansion through the right side of the body as you inhale. And allowing the space to contract as you exhale. If you feel you want a little more in this twist, you can cross the right leg over the left and either stay like that, or you can tuck the right foot behind the left calf. Wherever you are, releasing one last exhale here, sinking down into the ground. And as you inhale, coming back to center. Hugging the knees back into the chest, allowing the back to be flat. And bringing the left arm back to the ground, opening the left palm up toward the ceiling, checking the arms at a right angle, grounding down through the left shoulder. And we're going to use the right arm to pull the knees toward the right side. Just finding a twist that feels nice, not trying to go too deep. If the knees come down to the ground, that's great. If the left shoulder's lifting, then you can lift the knees until the shoulder comes down. And maybe you can look away from the legs, so just fixing the gaze on the left elbow. Allowing the breath to fill the left side of the body, opening up through the left ribs. With each exhale, feeling the shoulders becoming heavier, relaxing down into the ground. And just noticing the weight of the legs. Again, if you want a little deeper twist, you can come into eagle legs, so crossing left leg over right, tucking left foot behind the right calf. And again, pulling the knees down toward the ground. Counting one last round of breath here, allowing the exhalation to be long. Sinking down as the breath comes out. And as we inhale, pull the legs back to center. Hugging the knees into the chest one more time. We're just gonna give ourselves a little massage here along the ground. So maybe rocking gently from side to side. Massaging the back along the ground. Maybe starting to draw circles with the back. Either moving moving in whatever direction you like, changing direction. And starting to allow the eyes to drift close. Starting to gradually allow each movement to become a little shorter, a little slower, until you're completely still. And one by one, we're going to bring the feet back down to the ground, checking feet to hip width. If you want, you can grab something warm or a blanket before we come down into Shavasana. So from here, checking feet to hip width, knees looking straight up toward the ceiling. I want you just to drive the weight of the body slightly backward, and just notice as the flesh from the shoulders is trapped behind the back, leaving the neck long, and extending the arms, turning palms up toward the ceiling, making sure there's just a little space between the sides of the body and the arms. Tucking the tailbone, so allowing the spine to be long, allowing the abdomen to sink down toward the spine. And one by one, you can extend the legs, bringing the heels toward the edges of the mat, or if you're not on a mat, bringing them just wider than hip width. And sink the toes down by either side of the body, allowing the legs to relax, closing the eyes once more if they've come open. And just starting to focus back onto the breath. Allowing each round of breath to become a little longer than the last. Allowing the body to start to calm. Feel the inhalation filling the abdomen, maybe filling the chest as well. Just notice as the abdomen and the chest open up toward the ceiling, expanding. And as you exhale, feel the front body, the chest and the abdomen sinking back down. The breath emptying from the body. As you continue with this breath, in and out through the nose, becoming longer and longer. As you exhale, just feel the body becoming heavy and start to allow it to sink down into the ground. Allow the muscles to relax, feel them almost melting. With each exhalation, as you become heavier, and as you feel yourself sinking down deeper and deeper, feel the body becoming very relaxed. Feel the face softening. Relax the muscles in the forehead. Relax the eyebrows and feel the space between the eyebrows growing wider. As the eyebrows spread apart from one another, this space between them becoming smooth. Imagine any frown lines disappearing as the forehead and the brow relaxes completely. As you start to shift your attention down through the face, Notice the weight of the eyelids, just keeping the eyes gently shut. Allow the eyeballs to sink down toward the back of the skull. And relax the muscles around the eyes. Relax the cheeks. Soften the lips. Allowing the teeth to gently part. Tongue to sink down toward the bottom of the mouth. Soften the throat. And release the jaw. Start to allow the breath to become a little more conscious. Allowing the next inhalation to deepen. And just visualize or imagine it filling the whole body. Feel the body expanding as you breathe in. And as you exhale, you can let out a small sigh or just release the breath out through the mouth, allowing the exhale to be long. And just allow any tension that's still held in the body to be released with this breath. Repeating, inhale, filling the body, expanding through the front body. You may be starting to feel light. And as you exhale, feeling any tension or anxiety still held in the body, just drifting a little further away, being released with the breath. And you can repeat this breath one more time on your own. And when you're ready, you can start to find some gentle movement in the fingers and the toes. Maybe just wiggling the fingers and the toes or giving them a little stretch. Maybe starting to twist, rotate the ankles and the wrists, keeping the eyes closed still. And bringing the hands up above the head, so we're drawing one long line with the body. Holding the hands, just starting to stretch from fingers to toes, maybe finding a little twist like we do when we wake up in the morning. Starting to feel the energy coming back into the body. And inhale, pulling knees into chest, dropping the arms back around the knees, giving ourselves one last massage along the ground. And when you're ready, you can slowly roll over onto your right side. So using the right hand or the right forearm as a pillow for the head, bringing the knees to the ground, and just gently resting the left arm over the legs. Feeling the light coming slowly back into the eyes until the eyes are completely open. And just take as long as you like to stay here or come back into a seated position where you feel comfortable. Thank you, everyone. Namaste. I will send you a request to come off mute in case anybody wants to say bye, but no pressure. Or in case anyone has any questions.